Hey friends, are you graceful? I've been thinking about gracefulness and the fact that I am not graceful at all. I trip over things that aren't even there. Well, welcome back to another Next Steps podcast. My name is Kim, and I would have to say that some of you are quite graceful. Some of you do gymnastics, some of you even, dance or do ballet or even teach it. Some of you do yoga. I'm not flexible, I'm not graceful. And like I said, I trip over things that aren't even there sometimes. And truth be told, I've always been that way. And I got thinking about tripping, especially in regards to our faith, and that sometimes it doesn't feel like we're very faithful. It feels like one step forward and two steps back. And there's a verse in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6 that says, "And without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him." And we can read a verse like that and we can think, gosh, I must not please God because I'm constantly tripping in my walk of faith, that it's not a perfect faith, that it's not a constant moving forward. We call these podcasts next steps, and sometimes I feel like that can feel like a burden on us, like we're supposed to conjure up all our faith in God and we're never to waver. But again, it's like this one step forward, two steps back. And so what does this mean? Well, in the book of Hebrews, in this chapter 11, it's also called the Hall of Faith, where the writer has written about countless men and women who were faithful. But if you take a look at their stories, they were constantly one step forward and two steps back in their faith. So what does that mean then? Well, I think it means that next steps are less of a constant forward motion, always up and to the right, and more of a dance with God. It's not as much of a race and always being good and always being right, as much as a dance with Jesus. Can you picture that? When we picture a dance with Jesus, I have to say that sometimes it can feel weird or maybe a little even cheesy, especially I would say if you guys out there who are thinking about that. But I want you to remember that when we dance with God, these next steps, which are more of a dance with God, it's not man to man. It's not human to human. It's the God of the universe who made you, who calls you his child, that when you decide to believe in him, that he adopts you into his family. It's the God who created the ground that you stand on that wants to dance with you. It's God to child, not human to human. And so can you picture this dance with him? See, he is full of grace. And sometimes we can look at our walk with him and we can struggle and we can doubt and we can be ashamed because we're tripping, because we're walking backwards instead of walking forwards. But friends, he cares less about your perfection and more about you being with him. He just wants you to be close to him, letting him hold you, eye to eye, face to face, heartbeat to heartbeat. And the more that you do, the more that you can look at that scripture and understand it more clearly. Because again, let's look at that scripture again. "And without faith, it is impossible to please God." This faith is not from ourselves. It is from him alone. So what doesn't please him is not being with him. And so if you're with him, he's going to help you grow in faith because he is the faith giver. And the more that you do that and the more you earnestly seek him, the more he rewards you with himself. That's what the scripture is all about. So your next steps this week, what I want you to do is I want you to start thinking about next steps being more of a dance than a race. So anytime that you're picturing being with Jesus or you're just frustrated with yourself or feeling ashamed, remember that he loves you no matter what, and it's a dance and not a race. Well, thanks again for joining me, and remember, next steps, which are more of a dance, are most successful with God and with others.